Counselor. Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Okay, another episode in the Charlton Las Vegas Massacre investigation. I don't like to call it that, but, you know, just because I really don't feel like I'm that. I'm not that. I'm just some dude who at times can exhibit, I think, some serious clarity, and other times can be quite foolish. But, you know, that doesn't negate the times where I think I have some brains, and I've spotted something that, you know, I think is really big. So let's go. I mean, I'm gonna start. Not every single video. I don't have that many more Vegas videos to do. And somebody actually asked me, you know, how come you haven't made any videos recently about Vegas? And I agree, I haven't. I've been doing another thing, and I definitely watching some of the videos, the most recent videos. I got the distinct impression that, you know, people were trying to call me in to do a video, so I'll do one. But I'm going to start out by this. You've all heard me say this many times, but this is, I mean, there's lots of maybes going on here, and I'm presenting some maybes, a bunch of maybes. This, to me, is not a maybe. This door, this is the left door of the double doors of room 32135. This door was cut. I'm at like a 99.99%, maybe not quite that certain, but pretty close, that this was cut, and this is not a maybe for me, and this tells it all to me, okay? That this here is a very distinct cut. Actually, this is a screenshot, so I can't zoom in. And, you know, and that the door was just designed, it was planned this way, to be cut here, down this way, down over this way, and up this way, okay? This cut is done at a slightly different angle and doesn't look quite as clean as this, but that is just cut, okay? And the whole plan was that the explosive tape was supposed to, you know, destroy that or at least make it not look like it was cut, but it didn't. And so, you know, and like I've said in a previous video that, you know, it's not as though the FBI cut this door in half, you know, in order for evidence, to take it away as evidence or whatever, because in another photograph, I think it's right here, you know, that same cut. I'll move on quickly, but I want to begin with this. It's important because other people aren't watching previous videos, and this is the most significant portion of this, you know, of what I'm talking about. That cut is right there. So if they cut it in half, that means they put the two halves back together for this crime scene photo, which is ludicrous. And you'll notice that the cut here is directly above the deadbolt, okay, so that basically somebody could remove the top portion of that door and climb over, get in and out of that room without the lock report knowing it, so that it would only look like there was one person in there ever, because obviously, you know, they didn't want people to know that there was more than one person in there. So that's just for starters. And actually, I'm looking at the other door, you know, and not in depth, and it's nothing humongous, because this crime scene is so screwed up, and, you know, there's just so many different things, and some of them are meant to just confuse you. Some are legitimate mistakes. That one, believe me, that's not meant to confuse you. That's just a huge mistake on the people who conspired to do this. And I believe, it was my belief, because there's no way, in my opinion, that somebody would go through this kind of elaborate step to get in and out of that room and try to disguise it and make it look like, you know, it was never cut open. Somebody would not go through all that just to hide a disgruntled gambler who lost $1.5 million, you know, in a portion of his at least legal life savings. You know, there's just no way that's ridiculous. So My theory was that it was, that there was drug dealing going on in the hotel, and that it was an ongoing operation, and that Paddock was a drug dealer, and he was part of a large drug smuggling ring. One of his functions might have been that he was an accountant, but he also was a pilot, and there's several pilots involved here, and I think that's how it worked. I think my theory was that it was the Saudis. They were the supplier, and yes, Saudis don't necessarily, they're not the main manufacturer of fentanyl, opioids. The Chinese are, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not an expert on drugs, but I also was thinking that basically they're selling oil to the Chinese, they're getting paid in fentanyl, they're probably getting an incredible price on the oil because they're getting paid in an illegal, material, but to the Chinese, they don't care. It's free. It's like nothing to them. Fentanyl doesn't cost them barely anything to make. So it's great for everybody except for all the thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of Americans that are dying from opioid overdoses. If you look, and this is just up until 2017. It kind of begins right in 2013 where it just skyrockets. This is synthetic opioid deaths. Okay, fentanyl primarily, starting in 2013. That date is significant in my view. That's right around when somebody basically, to me, left the United States government, who had been traveling all over the world. It was right around that time. And actually, this is just up to 2017. 2018 is even worse. This is 30,000 people dead from overdoses in 70,000 in 2018. 70,000 in 2018. 2018, and actually 2017 for that matter, is Trump. All right? That just is, dude. That's his administration. The 70,000 people dead. All right, but it was my theory that it was the Saudis. They own 4 floors in the Mandalay Bay. They're the top 4 floors, not exactly the top, but above 32. It doesn't matter. He didn't stay in this room every single time, but the operation went like, in my opinion, it was he would come in with a ton of bags, probably to move in again and stay there for an extended stay, a month or more, whatever, and he probably had all his clothes in those bags, and then he would just unpack. But he would take those bags back out of the building after a humongous drug buy, and, so fill them up with drugs, and then he'd go back out of the building and then distribute it to the rest of the country through a network of drug dealers, that many of whom are probably pilots, and other means. That's my theory. Okay, that probably just took 10 minutes just for that intro, which is I'm just going to keep going. So, I've only just poked back and forth to the photos because there's so many different mistakes in them. And, if I could go to this, these silly shoes, all right? Because I think some of these things are like they're literally doctored to just get you to look at them and see, oh my God, the shoes are here, but they're not in another photo. I honestly think those shoes were not in this photo. I think somebody placed them there just to screw with you, so that things that were mistakes, legitimate mistakes in their design, in their plan, in this conspiracy, you don't know what's real and what's not real. And so it's just meant to confuse. And actually, it was another creator who seemed to, focus on these shoes at great length. And I've already described in a previous video, my most recent video, that other creator, I believed he was the uncle to a Las Vegas attorney who had connections. He had a client who was basically, I think he was Ukrainian, but he had been convicted of it in a massive child pornography ring. Based in Thailand, and one of the other creators making videos about this, about Vegas, is, he's self-admitted, he lives in Thailand. So it just seemed like a giant coincidence, and I'm not going to go through how I came across this Vegas attorney because I already have 1,000 times in other videos, and that's just life. If you don't know what's what. But it was my opinion that this creator was his uncle. And, and like I said, when I started talking about this initially, this uncle who I found, and I'm not going to name, he didn't have his nephew as one of his friends, and other family members as his friends. But as soon as I started talking about it mysteriously, they popped up. you know, as his friends. And you know, I mean, I just that was kind of like, whoa, you know, it was sort of like they you know, put it out in the open, like we weren't hiding anything, no, really. And, yeah, and there's more to that too, believe me. You know, somebody else is connected to that individual, the attorney, the Vegas attorney who's got a history, who was involved in something that was, not going to get too specific because I don't want to. I do think it was involved with something that was tied to Thailand as well. Now, I don't even know. I don't know if this guy who's making videos in Thailand is totally fake and he just wants, you know, me to. It could be the dude who I think is the uncle of the attorney is fake, and he really isn't, but for some reason he wants me to think that. Because initially he named himself a different name that tied him to this massive creator. That's how I came across him. He wanted me to think that. He wanted me to think he was related to this huge creator. I've already been through it, who's got a grandmother who's famous, who had a connection with somebody the same last name as his Vegas attorney. If you don't follow along, it's really hard to follow. But, you know, I just can't do any better than that. But that's going to come back up in this video later down the road. But I honestly think, these things here are, I think it's meaningless. Like the shoes aren't there, and it looks like maybe they were, you know, somebody, you know, photoshopped that or whatever and smudged it out. But the shoes don't really line up. It's just baloney. They're insignificant, in my opinion, basically. But I'm glad that I was able to talk about that dude, because that's going to come up in a little bit. What I do think is significant is this door. You know, I believe that in addition to this, which to me is very, very clear, this one's not quite as clear. I'll put myself right in the middle. This thing here, I contend, is a cut, and I do believe it. I just don't believe it with the certainty that I believe this. Okay, and my thought was like, there's no reason to cut that they didn't need to do that, and the only thing, you know, that they could have gotten in and out from this door, never needed to even mess with that, and just gone through the adjoining doors and done all their business inside both rooms without ever having to do that. The only reason I think they had to do that is because I believe the helicopters, those damn helicopters, you know, you don't think of everything, and the vacuum that the helicopters created shut the adjoining doors. And so they had to either saw open the adjoining doors or saw open this door, and they made a calculation to do this door, you know, for some reason. And as I said, this little strap here that somebody told me is the handle to a canine leash, I believe, is you know, wound around this door handle and then tucked inside the door, and it's as the door's closed into it, you know, and that's meant to make that blend in. All right, so I mean, basically, the thing that I noticed, and it's not humongous, but it's definitely real, okay, is as the wheels on the cart. Let me put myself down here. And, you know, obviously in this door, you do not see that little crack, which a lot of people are saying it's wire. It's not a wire, okay? And there's other photos from the other side of the door, inside room 134, that show there's no wire hanging there from the inside. It was never a wire, and it's no wire here because, well, actually, and there's no cut either, because this is a different door. Either this door has been completely replaced, or it's a different setup altogether. My hunch, and I used to think that it was I don't know. I really don't know. My hunch is the door was replaced, because it had to be replaced one way or the other if it was cut. Like, I mean, if that's my theory, then it had to be replaced, and so that would be my theory. And basically, what I'm saying here is these wheels are much different than this. Okay, here it's what it would have been, the natural progression of him wheeling the cart out of 135, you know, to the right here, you know, moving it and wheeling it straight down the hallway right in front of the door, not moving it out into the hallway from the 134 door. That's almost impossible the way this cart is, unless you would have to come straight back out and then redo it, you know. But what I'm saying to you is, this is the way it would have came out 135, in my opinion, and that's just that would be I think the normal thing. And he just pushed it straight into the wall and maybe swiveled it a little bit, maybe even lifted it because he wanted it to be flush, perfectly jammed up against the door for whatever reason. He wanted it to be firm in place. And maybe he lifted it, and that's what caused this wheel to kind of go slightly to the left because as he lifted it up the ground and swiveled it into place. I don't know. But he definitely would have pushed it straight into the wall there, into... I mean, the wheels are different. That's all there is to it, But this one's different. And this is after, in my opinion, the door has been replaced and there's no more cut anymore. And what I'm thinking is that, this car was moved out of the way to replace the door, and it was over here at some point, and they had to move it back this way, the opposite of what really happened, because this is all after the fact, and then pushed it into this way. And that's why those wheels are looking exactly that way, I mean, it's just... And actually, and I'm, this wheel is like, and so is this, this wheel and this wheel is actually like this photo. So, I'm just being real, but it's not like this photo. It's not. Believe me, dude. That's a cut, dude. It's a cut. You telling me that's a coincidence that this strap just happens to be on the door opposite of it for absolutely no apparent reason whatsoever? It's ridiculous. It's a cut, but it doesn't matter, dude. This is it's just a fact. It's like a 99% chance fact to me. So, I don't have a ton more to present other than, a couple days ago, and I didn't even bother making a video about it. I definitely pondered it. I looked into it, and it just didn't seem meaty enough, to make a video about. But I'll bring it up now, which is there was a flight, I think it was, I don't know what the date was. It was 16th, I want to say. What's the date of this? This is the 16th. I think it was, it was the 16th. Scheduled to fly into... McCarran Airport. By the way, this drug running operation, the fact that McCarran Airport is right there, right in the heart of Las Vegas, I don't know if that's the one right across the Mandalay Bay or if it's the if that's the Air Force Base. I'm not sure. I don't know, but that plays an integral part in this. Obviously, the drugs are flown in from overseas. And like I told you, my theory was that the Saudis were the supplier. The Saudis were getting it maybe from the Chinese, and they were paying the Chinese or the Chinese were paying them in fentanyl for oil. And it's just I already went through it. So, but I noticed there was this story about an American Airlines. Damn, I should have brought it up. Nellis Air Base, I think, is it, right? There it is. So, yeah, and that's outside of Vegas. The Air Force Base is not right across from McNair. It's right across from the Mandalay Bay. But there was a flight from Dallas, which I think Mesquite, Texas, where Stephen Paddock had his apartment complex that he owned for a period of time. I think that Mesquite, Texas, is near Dallas. It's not terribly important, but it's just worth noting. The flight from Dallas to Vegas got diverted to Nellis Air Force Base, and the reason was because they needed to refuel. And because they had weather complications. I wasn't able to see their flight pattern. At the time that I was looking into the story, the software hadn't even updated yet. I think it takes some time before that becomes public. But, and I'm not going to do it here, but Nellis Air Force Base is very close to McNair. It just seemed, in fact, it's northeast of Las Vegas. It's even beyond, flight patterns don't always go in a direct path. So that's not totally significant, but it's only like 13 miles, I think, from McCarran International Airport, and so it just seemed odd to me like that they would go to 16 miles that they would need to go. Like, why would they even need to go to Nellis Air Force Base? that's all there is to that story. But it just made me search: has that happened ever before in the past? And just days before, on the 15th, I believe, I don't know if it was the 15th that happened, and these are delayed to the reporting. Multiple U.S. military jets were diverted to McCarran, the opposite International Airport, around 4 p.m. Thursday after Nellis Air Force Base closed both their runways. Nellis Air Force Base representatives say the runways were closed due to two separate minor mechanical aircraft malfunctions. And that's pretty much the extent of it. I don't want to dwell on this. It could be absolutely nothing, but it's just funny that that popped up, and then when I looked for it, the complete opposite happened. Military jets were being diverted from Nellis Air Force Base to land in McCarran International Airport, because in my opinion, pilots would have been an integral part of this drug running operation. And what's his name? Stephen Paddock had a pilot's license. He had two small aircraft, as to the best of my knowledge. One, I believe, in a small airport in Mesquite, Texas, outside of Dallas, if my memory serves me right, and one in Henderson, Nevada. And he actually, it was my theory that he got introduced to the drug dealing trade when he worked at the airport nights, while he was in college, I think in Southern California. Okay? But it also turns out that same uncle of that attorney, okay, who's making videos about Las Vegas, trying to do whatever he's doing. Who knows why he's doing that? I've gone through it quite a bit. His brother, I believe the father of the Las Vegas attorney, was a pilot in the Air Force. All right, and yeah, that's the end of this video. It started in 2013, man. That's when it went straight up. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Sorry for such a long video. Later, man.